What is going on, Diablo 2 fans? Dobrunsky here. In today's build video, it's going to be a complete guide on all of the best rare items that you should be hunting for and trying to equip on your character. A lot of people, and there's a lot of misconceptions I think in general, or new players at least, thinking that it usually goes white items, then magic, rare, sets, uniques, and then rune words. And for the most part, that is typically true, but there are some cases where rares actually trump out every single other item, so you definitely need to keep a lookout for some of these items I'm going to cover. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video and you do find it very useful. Again, a quick reminder before we jump in, if you guys do enjoy my YouTube content, just want to let you guys know that I do stream twice a week on Twitch. Got the link for my Twitch channel in the description below, so any follows over there on that platform would be very much appreciated. That being said, guys, let's jump in. So I'm going to segment this video into different sections, timestamps in the description below if you want to navigate between certain spots of the video, but this is honestly, in my humble opinion, the most valuable and sought after rares. There is definitely a few exceptions like playthroughs or solo self-found. If you find a good temporary fit, like a good rare item, use it as you continue to progress through the game. But I really do think that this video encompasses every single endgame rare item and its valuable build. So again, let me know in the comment section below if you guys agree or disagree. I do always read the comments. The first thing that we're going to do is jump into some 5 Nado Pelts. So this is typically used on the Wind Druid if you want to achieve a max damage setup. So here are the 2 best 5 Nado Pelts, or I should say the only 5 Nado Pelts that I've ever found in single player in Diablo 2 Resurrected. I have traded for them on Battle.net, but I have this one is kind of the not as good one. 2 to Druid skills, 3 to Tornado, Shockwave, Energy, Life, and Lightning Res. So this is going to be a lot more overall damage because it will add plus 5 to Tornado versus, let's say, plus 2 to Tornado if you're using Shaco. Now, obviously, Shaco has more Magic Find, but pure damage setups, this is the way to go. And this is the best one that I've ever found. Is a 2 to Druid skills, 2 to Hurricane, Summon Grizzly, and Tornado. So it is literally every single beneficial skill. The only way that you could make this better would be plus 3 to Hurricane and plus 3 to Summon Grizzly, but that is an insane find for single player. And then it has, I believe it was Strength, Life, Lightning Res, and Fire Res, and Repair Durability. And then the Jewel that I socketed in this Druid Pelt gives 7 FHR and 7 to Dexterity. So a whole list of modifiers, a very cool looking helmet as well. It's blue, so when you put it on a Druid, looks really solid. Typically, there's different varying like modifiers, so you can have 2 to Elemental skills or 2 to Druid skills, and it will change the color. Like you can get green, red, gold, light brown, blue, even white. But really, you're just looking for the 5 to Nado and then other beneficial stats. And again, it's more of a max damage setup. Now, moving into the next sort of plus 5 skill class. Now, these are even more niche than the 5 Nado. And there's really only 2 uses that I've ever kind of thought about using these on a Barb, but I thought I'd want to cover them anyways because people would say something if I didn't. So the first is a plus 5 to Battle Orders helmet. Now, I don't recommend using this for regular gameplay on a Barbarian. There's a lot better choices like G-Face for pure damage. Ariat's Face is good overall setup, like the plus skills, Life Leech that it has, everything else. If you want to go like a Wolf Barb, obviously you have to use the helmet Wolf Howl. The other Barb helmets are kind of more niche. I don't really recommend them, but this is a great helmet if you're just trying to identify for rare Barb Pelts, or rare Barb helmets, excuse me. Pelts is Druid, helmets for the Barbarian. This is great for boosting your plus life if you want to do an Uber run with the Barbarian. So again, very niche. A lot of people are going to be doing Ubers with Smiters. It's a great way to add some extra additional plus life. So you just temporarily put it on, buff up with Battle Orders, and then take it off and switch to whatever else. The one below it is even more rare. It is a 3 to find item, 5 to Warcry helmet. So you could use this on a Singer Barb if you wanted some extra damage. Singer Barbs are really weird characters because they really only use Warcry to stun mobs, and you're mostly relying on your Mercenary. Typically, those setups, you're really only running through the pits. Players 1 difficulty. I have covered an older build video, but you're really, most cases, going to be using Shaco or like a Istig Griffins or something to try and get a certain FCR breakpoint. It's a very niche character, but I thought I'd cover this helmet anyways. Now moving on to Circlets. 220 Circlets can be very amazing items and help you achieve certain builds. Now typically, I think the most popular ones are the Assassin, Necro, Druid, and then potentially Paladin. Everything else I don't think it's very beneficial. Like a 220 Barb Circlet, I don't really know where you'd ever want to use that. 220 Sorcerer Circlets need to be really good to try and beat Griffins if you're a Lightning Sorceress, Shaco if you're Magic Finding, or Nightwings if you're cold and you want pure damage. They just have to be insane unless you want some like 200 FCR Fireball Sorceress. This is two examples of some of the better 220 Circlets that I found. First one is a 220 Assassin Circlet with 19 all res, and then I put a Chamrune in it for Cannot Be Frozen. The cool thing about a Chamrune and a Circlet for an Assassin, or even a Shaco, is increased attack speed determines, how fast you can lay down traps. So if you're frozen, you can't lay down traps as fast, so you can definitely use a Ravenfrost Ring or like a Trang's Belt. But if you want to rock 2 SOJs for more mana and more damage, you want to put a Chamrune and a Circlet. So that's the reason why I covered this 220 Scent Circlet. And then I have this 220 Druid Circlet. So I do love the Druid. 220, 10 to Strength, 24 Lightning Res, and then I put a Perfect Topaz in it for some extra Magic Find. This is a great helmet to use if you're trying to achieve the 163 FCR breakpoint. Very expensive Druid setup to maintain or achieve. And you're teleporting, I think, as fast as a 63 FCR Sorceress, or maybe a little bit less. So if you're a big Druid guy, you might want to look for a 220 Druid Circlet. The next batch of items is 220 gloves, or just 20% increased attack speed res MF gloves. I'll talk about what builds those excel in. So first, starting off, I have a 220 boa skill glove here. These are best used, in my opinion, on a freezing arrow Boazon. If you're trying to go for a physical damage Boazon, I definitely think laying hands just trumps these gloves so much. The 350 ED to demons from laying hands and the fire res and the 20 IS is so much better than the minuscule extra damage you'll get from adding like 2 extra skills to strafe. Or if you're a multi-shot Boazon, you're just adding 2 extra arrows. And I've covered this in previous build videos where I think you really don't want to go too much past like 15, 16, 17 arrows. When you start to get to the max arrow spread, it just costs more mana, and it's not really that beneficial. So 220 boa gloves are great. 220 Javelin gloves are also great as well. I will argue this to the end of time. I really do think that 220 Javelin gloves are better than 320 magic equivalents. All you're getting is 1 extra skill, and you're sacrificing stuff like Dexterity, Lightning Res, Fire Res, potentially Magic Find. And when you have a fully decked out Javazon, so all Javazon Skillers, Torch, Annie, Griffins, Enigma, Chains of Honor, SOJs, Maras, High Lords, Spirit, like whatever the amount of plus skills, your Titans or your T-Strokes, the difference of 1 extra skill is not noticeable if you have Infinity Mercenary and Facets. So I really do think you're better off using a pair of 220 Javelin gloves and taking advantage of some of the extra stats that are on those items. And then I have here, well, we'll go just for the sake of 220, we'll mention this. For a martial arts kicks in, 220 gloves can be okay. The thing about adding extra skills to Dragon Talon is once you reach a certain point, you're not getting any more kicks. It's just extra attack rating. So typically, they're sort of wasted skills. You might want to be using like Drax gloves for life tap proc, but I just wanted to include these in case somebody mentioned that I missed them. And the last one is 20 IS Res Magic Find gloves. I'm currently actually rocking a Trapsin on Battle.net right now. I'm having a blast playing the character. And I'm using Mage Fist to boost my Fire Blast damage. But these would be great gloves to use because IS helps you lay down traps quicker, and I get extra Magic Find and then dual res. So definitely look out for these if you're trying to play Trapsin. Definitely overlooked gloves in my opinion. They do also work good for Pit Zerker as well. So definitely don't sleep on just plain 20 IS MF gloves. Moving on to boots. These are some of the coolest and most valuable rare items that you can drop. So this first one up here is 20 faster run walk, 10 FHR, Tri-Res, 21% MF boots. So that's basically kind of like the top tier stat. Although if these were perfect boots, I would have 30 faster run walk instead of 20. Again, you don't really notice it, but that's like your perfect goal you're shooting for. 10 FHR is really good. And then you would want cold, lightning, and fire res. And preferably 25 plus all the way up to 30 res of each. Cold res is good, but it's a little bit low on this pair of boots. And then 20 poison res, it's not as valuable as fire res. But then 21% MF. These gloves are better than War Travelers unless you really want that maximum 50 MF. So a little bit more MF versus better overall stats. Like these are definitely top tier single player. Battle.net, they might not be amazing, but they're definitely valuable boots. And then I have a pair of Again, this is 30 fast run walk, 10 FHR, lightning, fire res, and gold find. So these would work great for a gold find Travancore Barb. Just stacking extra gold find, res, and again, faster run walk and FHR. So definitely don't sleep on boots. They can be amazing items in Diablo 2 Resurrected, or just Diablo 2 in general. And moving on to some items that I think are kind of either unobtainable for the most part or sort of placeholder items. So first we'll start off with amulets. I genuinely believe in most scenarios, like if you're melee, you're going to be using Cat's Eye or High Lords. If you're a caster, you're probably going to be endgame, want to be using a really nice caster amulet that can get 2 and up to 20 FCR, or Mara's for that $2 skills and extra res. Rare amulets can be really good placeholders. Like this is 1 sorcerer skills, 10 FCR, 16 res across the board, 21 for poison, and 24 MF. Definitely can be viable as placeholders, but endgame setups, I think caster and like Mara's is better. And then for melee, you're probably never going to be using rare amulets, so kind of like a placeholder progression amulet in my opinion. The next pair of items here is rings. Now, I really like FCR rings. People typically always want to shoot for SOJs, and they are very good for boosting damage, but don't sleep on FCR rings. So this is 10 FCR, Dexed, all 4 res across the board, and Magic Find. Very, very beneficial stats, which can help you. If you're like a max block sorceress using Storm Shield, you might be sacrificing FCR elsewhere, so using rings like this can be very valuable. And then, of course, you have the standard dual Leech ring, which every melee character that's using Grief will be using a dual Leech ring, because typically they'll be using String of Ears, so that's Life Leech, and they need some source of Mana Leech. So this is valuable to those melee characters. Again, like dual Leech, strength, attack rating, max damage, res, any stats like that can be beneficial. Even min damage. These can be very difficult to get with very valuable stats, so make sure you always identify every single rare ring that drops. And then the next item here, this is sort of like entering the final portion of this video. We're just kind of talking about the super unobtainable rare items. So the first thing I want to talk about is Sorcerous Orbs. They are really only the best in-slot choice for fire or for lightning. You have to roll insane stats. So this is the closest that I've actually ever come to achieving a really good rare orb. So 2 to sorcerer skills, 20 FCR. It rolled 3 to lightning mastery, and it just needed to roll 3 to lightning. And that would be, with like a 5/5 lightning facet, would be better than using a shoot as temper, because you're getting a lot of plus skills. So +5 to lightning mastery and +5 to lightning versus 3 skills and extra lightning damage. So very difficult to achieve item. And if you're a cold sorceress, Death's Fathom will always be more damage. So again, very niche, difficult to find item that I really don't think is worth it. And then the final item is rare weapons. I almost did not want to include this in today's video because finding an ethereal, repair durability, cruel, fool's mod weapon is next to impossible. They're kind of like those chase items that really only exist in LOD because of mass spotting. And in most cases, they're not really even better than Grief. So the one that I have on the screen right now is a very like best case example of what you can achieve with rare weapons, although it's next to impossible to find. So it's almost not going to include it because people that are clicking on this video that want to learn about rares will probably never find these, and people that know about these items that are hunting for them don't really need this guide. So anyways, I included them to wrap up the video, but that basically covers everything, guys. I know it was a bit of a talking video, but I did want to showcase kind of every top tier rare example that I found. So I do hope you guys enjoy this video. As always, if you guys could throw a like on it, share it, and even consider subscribing if you're new to my channel. I post new weekly content on YouTube, and I do stream twice a week on Twitch. So any follows on Twitch or subs on YouTube would be amazing. Other than that, guys, hope you have a fan-frickin-tastic day, and I'll catch you all in my next video or live stream. Peace out.